In French, we say that if you ask the right questions, you've already got half the solution to your problem. And the Commission's Green Paper has asked some of those right questions. The Commission representative will be telling us in a moment, Mrs. Kopanisou, where the Commission stands on that. But now the Commission is waiting for proposals from us. And we therefore need to do our own analysis of the situation. But apart from that, we also need to be making our own proposals, which is why, together with the Committee of the Regions and here in Parliament, we have concentrated on one point for this afternoon's seminar, namely the question of who does what. Green Paper on urban transport, which the Commission has launched, represents a very broad process of public consultation. It's been running for a few months, and already a few ideas have emerged. It's been confirmed in particular that there's a very strong expectation of a genuine European urban mobility policy.
Urban transport accounts for 40% of CO2 emissions, and I add 70% of pollutant emissions for road transport. Therefore, it was necessary for us to include urban mobility in the agenda of sustainable transport at the EU level. Otherwise, there would be a big gap in this broader context. And of course, the successes of EU policies on climate change and air quality, and there are significant successes in these areas, to a large extent depend on the contribution of the urban transport. As you know, the Green Paper was the result of a very wide and intensive consultation with all interested parties across Europe during the first half of 2007. The Vice President of the European Commission and Commissioner responsible for transport, Mr. Barrot, explicitly requested us to involve everybody who has an interest in this subject.
The first slide shows straight away the multi-layered nature of the different competences. I'm not going to touch on the European Union competences, Mrs. Kopanetsu has mentioned those, but under that we've got the French state, where you have transport and regulations, and also when it comes to developing roads in the national interest. And then you have another national structure, which is National Public Debate Committee. Every time a road plan is set out or some sort of transport plan is set out, it has to be submitted to certain bodies for it to be discussed.
I think the attraction of this afternoon's seminar starts with its title. This is important both in political and in technical terms. This question of who does what. Chairman Andrea, a southern Italian like me, started off pointing out a few gaps in the Italian system, particularly as regards the management of the overall mobility issue. It also applies in other sectors. I have to say, however, that over the last few years the approach has changed for two reasons. First of all, there's been a growing understanding of mobility, which is no longer regarded as something independent.
The paper is lacking of proposals of strategic direction, and it appears that the Commission is still no clearer on its role in urban issues. This unusual procedure, with two parallel rounds of public consultation, reflects the Commission's cautious approach towards urban issues which fall under national, regional or local pressure. The EPF's view, the Green Paper should deepen more in the approaches to face the problems of mobility in the cities instead of continuing formulating questions. This is a little bit what in EPF decided to say about the Green Paper. This is a typical picture of a wealthy suburb of Athens where private cars are captivating every square meter of public space, even on the cycleway. The cycleway has probably been financed for the local authority has taken money from the European Union to construct a cycleway, which is now using as a parking place for the private cars.
Cyclo City. Well, this is a trademark of ours, registered for bicycles. Bicycle system, not just any old bicycle, but something that is now recovering ground in cities, turning once again into a reliable way of moving hundreds of thousands of people around cities every day, which was so far was only done by individuals. If you look at the red part of the picture there, you see the whole flow management system. With thousands of bicycles in cities, we've developed a very considerable competence, which we now can make available to cities to manage this flow. First stage, distribute the bicycles to the cities and around the cities. And I'm talking about the red bit at the top on the right. Then you have interactivity. In other words, people need to know in real time where bicycles are available. Then once they're on the bicycle, that's the third part, they need to be able to find their way around, to know where there are free parking places, where they can leave their bicycles.
Two extreme examples, Scandinavia or London, where you have a line-by-line or group of line-by-line tendering, and you have contracts which tend to be based on mileage costs, where the operator who's offering to do it at the cheapest price will probably get the contract. Now, quality is not always taken into consideration, but another approach, which is at the other extreme, if you like, is the one chosen by the Netherlands, where now in certain regions there's a global budget that is given to the tender, and the operator is meant to take that envelope, which has been defined by the authority, and do everything that needs to be done. And there, of course, there's a much more creative role for the companies concerned.
I have a great deal of experience. I've been vice chairman in Stockholm Local Transport Authority for a few years now, and we've managed to highlight the idea of moving away from just price for your tendering and looking towards quality in your tendering. So you want to have reduced vulnerability but increased guarantees in your tendering. I hope that we would have the courage to take a further step here so that we can see some sort of functional tendering, if you like, that you are covering all the transports between A to Z, but as the local authority doesn't have to get involved in the nitty-gritty of how this is done, it should be left up to the operators to come up with initiatives to stimulate new technology, but also a new way of coming to terms with the needs and requirements of passengers, such as their security and safety. Also, you were talking about the need to spread best practice. I think that's something we need to do as well. In the Green Paper, they've tried to amass the best practice, tried to disseminate that. And I think when it comes to the actual way contracts are drawn up for operators, there should be space left for a longer construction in that contract. So when we're looking at the heavy investment that is so important for operators, that needs to be taken into consideration.